Hi everyone, and welcome to a slightly different episode of the Midlife Mix. Today's conversation is one I recorded with my functional health coach, Kelly O'Donnell, while documenting my own gut healing journey. Lana isn't joining me for this one, but we both felt that this discussion was too valuable not to share. We'll be back with our usual Midlife Mix episodes very soon, but in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this special conversation.
So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today, Kelly, because as you know, well, of course you know because you're my coach, but I've been sharing about I want to call it my gut healing journey on my social media, and it sparked a lot of interest, I have to say, because it's quite a intensive and quite an involved protocol, to say the least. And there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of things that people don't actually understand about such a protocol. So I want to pick your brains today and, really just try to simplify it, I guess, for people that are perhaps going through a similar thing and kind of have maybe gone to regular sort of GPs, as it were, and really not got any answers and are struggling. What is a functional health coach? I think we can kind of like start there, because that's certainly a question that I've been asked, like, well, what's a functional health coach and what can they do differently to say a gastroenterologist if you're suffering with, well, classic symptoms, bloating, weight gain. I mean, we could go on. The list is like pretty endless.
Yeah, so I think for a lot of midlife women, sort of, early to mid 30s upwards, I think there's so much confusion about what happens, and a lot of us just think, oh, it's something that happens to us, as we get towards perimenopause. And actually it's not. So functional health looks at the body as a system of systems, like a dynamic system. So everything is connected. And I think where modern medicine doesn't looks at things individually, and doesn't always connect those systems together. And so for someone like yourself, Joe, who was suffering with the bloating, and a few sort of similar digestive issues, if you went to a gastroenterologist, they probably wouldn't look at liver function, and they wouldn't look at blood sugar, and they wouldn't look at, metabolic flexibility, and energy and all those kind of things. Whereas a functional health practitioner like myself looks at the very root of the problem. We're not necessarily chasing symptoms, we're using symptoms as indications, but we're looking right at the bottom, at the root level, so that we can essentially weed out everything else and really fix from that ground level and build up again.
Yeah.
And that's where we differ, really.
Right. Yes, I know, because certainly from personal experience of having, let's say, SIBO, for example, which I know is a very common, intestinal bacterial sort of overgrowth, let's say. The first time I tried to deal with it was went to a gastroenterologist. I was given antibiotics, and like you say, it didn't solve the problem. It just temporarily gave me symptoms. But then whenever you try to live a normal life again and try to go back to eating, those foods or whatever, then all the symptoms come back. So, and also you're probably doing some harm taking antibiotics, as my labs might have said, okay, my labs are looking fine, my liver function looks all right. But I think we also can't also go with what our regular blood tests are showing us. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say so. And also we have to consider that the functional range of blood labs is very different to, the traditional range when you go to the doctors. And actually, if we look at that range, it's much wider. And so what we end up with is we're going from critical to critical, with like a normal range from modern medicine. Whereas if you look at a functional range, it's much tighter. And it's, invariably it's what's optimal for the person as well. Because
Right.
what might be optimal for one isn't necessarily optimal for another. So we have to look at the individual as well, I think.
Right. So obviously it's not just bloating and weight gain. What are other things that can actually be solved with a functional health coach as yourself?
Pretty much anything, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of women of sort of, I'm going to say average age 40, come with autoimmune issues, with which seem to be like nowadays so prevalent. You know, fibromyalgia is a big thing, Hashimoto's, um,
Mm.
endometriosis, all these kind of issues, which are our immune system issues, gut immune system issues. And we what we often find is nervous system plays a huge part. So many women these days, we're living in a very much a man's doing world where it's go, go, go all the time. And our nervous systems are stuck in sympathetic dominance. And this plays a big part as well. So not to mention like environmental toxins, the environment that you're in, the people that you're around, everything plays a part, even down to like cleaning products and, beauty products and things like that we're putting on the skin that the skin is absorbing. So
Yeah.
everything is playing a part into the conditions that can come or the symptoms that can come.
Right.
So yeah, so
Mhm.
there's many different areas we can look at.
You know, I was eating really, really healthy. And why wasn't that enough when I was leading a healthy lifestyle? I thought, being vegan would give me like this optimal health. And to be honest, for a long time, I felt great. Um, but a lot of people have said, obviously they've been really supportive, really behind me, and the fact that I've actually moved away from that for the time being, which was very, very difficult for me. But I think that a lot of people have looked at me as kind of like a bit of a role model, let's say, and say, well, oh my gosh, if Joe can't get it right, then what hope do we have? So why is sometimes, just eating healthy not enough?
Yeah, I think look, with a vegan diet, I think there's a lot of nutritional deficiencies and gaps that can happen. I mean, with the depletion of the soil quality as well, that's a thing anyway. And so I would say even for somebody that eats a very balanced diet, a meat eater, there's still going to be nutritional gaps or deficiencies. Um, Particularly when we look at, the adage of processed foods and things like that. And genetics as well can also play a factor in that. But for somebody on a vegan diet, there's a lot of gaps, particularly in B12, zinc, iron, all sorts of things. And I guess with that in mind, then hormones are thrown into the mix. And modern living, alcohol is a toxin. And I'm not saying that you were heavily drinking or other people are heavily drinking, but if we're unaware of exactly what we're doing, vegan diet is often promoted as being a really healthy choice, but actually that there are gaps there and there is a certain requirement to certain nutrients. And if we're not getting that, those
Mm.
minerals or nutrients that they need to do that processed. So
Mm.
I think this can happen. Also stress plays a big part as well. And not just psychological stress, but physiological stress as well.
Exactly. Because when
You
everyone says, oh, you're stressed or whatever to me, I'm like, well, actually, I don't feel stressed. But then I think, like you say, it's not just about how you might be feeling. It's a lot of external stresses or.
Absolutely. And quite often when women come to me, they have become very well adapted at dealing with the physiological stress on a daily basis. And they say things to me like, oh, well, I'm not stressed, but I never sit down. I like to keep busy. There's certain patterns with these ladies that say very similar things, and it's that plays it's a huge burden. And so when one system starts to go down, energy investment is pulled out, and it's the ultimate job of the body is survival. And so the first place energy investment is pulled from is digestion, which
Mm.
sounds kind of silly, really, because we need that for detoxification, right? But yeah, it's that's where it happens first.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, because I never really sort of considered that before. And then as soon as you said go, go, go on the time, always want to keep busy, it's just like, that's me right there. And also over exercising as well, I think is a really key point, because I just want to exercise every day. I used to be a huge runner. Now I'm not so much. Now I'm more in the gym, but like to really try to just kind of like step back from that for a while, especially as I'm going through also this sort of this journey is quite difficult. But that is also another stressor, over exercising.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to think about the cortisol response when we exercise. And, a little bit of that is good for us, but overdoing it, a depleted body with low calories, it's not good. It's an additional stress for the body. So yeah, I think a common misconception is that we need to eat less and do more. And actually in your 40s that doesn't work. It's in your 40s, we're looking more at nourishment and nurture, and less is more. And so typically, after working with someone, I would typically recommend that they train maximum 4 times a week and really, utilize resistance training, but doing things that will activate parasympathetic dominance as well, yoga, Pilates, walking in nature, those kinds of things as well, stretching, foam rolling.
Right. Right. Just really sort of just bringing things down and calming things down. Yeah. And that was another interesting part of the protocol. I mean, obviously, I want to talk about supplements, but it wasn't just about supplements in the meal plan. It was also about lymphatic drainage, doing that, the dry brushing, and humming happy birthday 3 times before a meal. So that's also to do with the vagus nerve, right? And I think everybody thought I was crazy in the house, but it's things like this which other people might think are a bit like either woo-woo or kooky or whatever, that I hadn't really done before. So, and I know that's also a really important part of the picture. I mean, in terms of
Yeah,
and just really bring
yeah.
everybody down.
I think honestly, if there was a few fundamental things that I had to make as a suggestion to a woman with sleep, hormone, and digestive issues, it would be setting circadian rhythm. So, natural exposure to
Right.
sunlight first thing in the morning, and then, avoiding overhead light and blue light in the evening, and really, really taking sleep very seriously.
Sleep
Uh,
like it's a job, that's what I
yeah,
say.
absolutely. I mean, I grew up on, plenty of time to sleep when you're dead. And
Yes. Yeah.
actually, that's the worst advice
I,
ever.
I said that too.
It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably one of the most fundamental things. But really, really homing in on nervous system regulation, and because that is the baseline of the body. And if you are in sympathetic drive all the time, everything is.
Your fight and your flight, is that correct? A sympathetic drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's uh,
Flight
flight,
and flight.
fight, freeze and fawn. And that's the sympathetic part of it. Um, and it's a weird one with the nervous system because it doesn't respond to positive affirmations. That's why, you might look in the mirror and say, "Oh, I feel really good today. I'm so happy and everything's going my way." And then you feel good in the moment, but then you walk away and boom, you're back to where you were. It
Okay.
responds to sensory input. So, um, no distraction. So, not looking on your phone, but just, staring out and looking at nature, looking at a tree, the leaves blowing, or, just
Mm,
taking an in-breath through the nose, in for four, a long
right.
out for eight, that kind of thing. The breathing particularly will really, down-regulate everything. And you'll notice that shift. You might notice it go from busy, busy, busy into suddenly like fairly peaceful, like a good place to be able to make decisions from.
Right.
Um, so
Yes.
yeah, it's a really important aspect of the journey.
Yeah. And I think it is, there is a lot, right? So whenever somebody might decide to go on this, to actually sort of work with a functional health practitioner, I think that, there is a lot to it. And I think the thing that you've also said to me, many times is we're not looking for perfection as
Yeah,
well, because not only am I dealing with like a lot of supplements every single day. But also there's other things as well that we need to work on. And I think not trying to be overwhelmed by it, because it can be very overwhelming, can't it?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's fundamentally a lifestyle shift. There is a period of adjustment and there's a period where we're doing some deep work. And life won't always be like that, but it is about picking up small little habits that are working for you on a day-to-day basis. And so, will you have to live as you are now forever? Absolutely not, there's
I
so much.
need to have no bread and have my coffee again at some point.
Of course you can. Of course you can, yeah. I think for now it's like let's give the gut a
Yeah,
chance of
yeah, I
healing
have to learn to
by
be patient.
yeah, by removing those stressors,
Yeah.
in the moment. But can you go back to, a normal way of living? Absolutely. But there
And I
will
think that's the goal
yeah,
ultimately, right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I can tell you, hand on heart, as someone that eats, sleeps, and breathes this every single day and has lived, through my own issues that I'm not a massive drinker. I would, if someone asked me, I don't really drink, but I had 2 glasses of prosecco on a 2-week holiday. Some people might go, "Oh wow, look at you," but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can still drink, and does it affect me? No, it doesn't, not at all. Did I wake
Because
up
you've
with a
got yourself in a place where everything is calm and you've worked on your own health
yeah,
and you worked on your own gut. And I think that's what's key, isn't it? Is that
absolutely,
get everything right, get the groundwork right first. I like to think of it as a bit like a garden, like you can't almost like growing a new garden inside your stomach. At the moment
yeah,
there's loads of weeds. Now we're gonna, lay that new garden. And I think once you've done that, then of course you can then have these things that you enjoy every now and again and lead, what people say is a normal life.
absolutely. I can tell you as well, chocolate and coffee are my things. So
Oh, it doesn't get better than that, does it?
I eat dark chocolate every single day without fail. If I don't,
And
there's a
does it
reason
help you,
for it.
dark chocolate?
Um, I would say it's better for you. There's way better antioxidants and it is just better for you. There's less sugar than something like a dairy milk. But does it mean to say that I
Mm.
don't sometimes have milk chocolate? Yeah, I do, but I really notice the difference. It's a bit like, oh, it's a bit sweet. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But there is normal life out there after.
Right, right. So, I mean, obviously, I'm still in very early phases, but obviously, I've shared on my social media the supplement schedule, and the supplement containers and all of that. So, I just wanted to ask, there's a lot of supplements, and is it necessary to have so many supplements?
I think in some cases, yes, and some it's just a nice to have. And it will invariably help the process happen quicker. So I know we've discussed a couple of supplements that I wanted to put in to help heal leaky gut and
Mhm.
to help with the build of the gut as well. And
Mm.
we could not use those supplements and we could still get the same results, but I think invariably it would take a bit longer,
Right.
to be
But then
honest
also
with you.
everybody's different, right? So obviously my
Absolutely.
supplement schedule is going to be completely different to somebody else's, and
Absolutely.
you take people like case by case, literally.
Yeah. So the health assessment that you filled in initially
Very
gives the
expensive, yeah.
yeah. It takes a couple of days to fill out. No, I am
Honestly.
not quite a couple of days. But yeah, I mean that does show that shows where we're really lacking, or we really need support and help. But then, doing things like GI map will also show where we need to support, because what that shows us is not only what opportunists are in there, what overgrowths are in there, are there any parasites, yeasts, um, that kind of thing. But it also shows us your foundational bacteria, what we call commensals, and where they're at. Are they low? Are they high? But it also it will give us, a great indication also of like leaky gut and inflammation levels, because there's certain things that we need to look at first. So if you are someone with a lot of inflammation, we need to calm that inflammation first before we we start going after any opportunists,
Yeah.
because
And it,
otherwise,
yeah. And it is phases, isn't it? So, I mean, I'm very early on.
yeah.
I'm in I think it's at the rebuild phase at the moment. But if you can just talk about just very briefly, the different phases that somebody would have to go through, and sort of the why behind them as well.
Yeah, so we did it slightly different with you because you took a GI map straight away. So we went through an initial phase um, of biofilm removal. So a lot of the opportunists and parasites can hide behind something called a biofilm. And if we don't remove that biofilm and we treat what we can see is in there, um, because they're hiding in this biofilm, they can come back some months later. Once they get the opportunity and you go back to normal life, on your sourdough and coffee, then that feeds them.
They'll
They can
start
come back
producing
again.
the life. Yeah, okay.
So what we did is we did a carnivore-ish style diet.
Hard,
Um,
to say the least.
it is when you're not
Yeah.
used to it, and also for you going straight from, and this was a discussion, wasn't it, that we had?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you made it very clear that there was no pressure. But
Yeah.
I just, I'd got to that stage where I've tried different protocols. I'd had some success, but I just kept going back to, I wasn't resolving the issues. So I was thinking, I don't want another 3 years like this. So
Mm.
tell me what I have to do. I'm going to do it. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how,
So
yeah.
yeah. So we started with a carnivore-ish style diet to entice basically to take away any fibers which would stimulate the opportunist and really to remove the biofilm. That gives us a really great indication of what's going on in the gut. So we have now a very clear picture with your GI map. And then from there, we went into a detox protocol. So what we were really focusing on during that phase was starting to really upregulate everything, but mainly phase 1 and 2 detox. So liver. So if the liver is congested, which quite often by this point in life it is, we're not detoxing from estrogen properly. So we're just essentially recycling. So I think some of those estrogen dominance symptoms that women get can not even be estrogen dominance, but just simply a buildup of excess hormone in the system, but also a buildup of metabolites and all sorts, over the years that you've been living. So we focus there. We focus on adrenals, which are responsible for regulating cortisol and adrenal and adrenaline. So we focus on supporting them and really, it's all about nourishment. It's not about eat less, do more. We're feeding
Mm.
up in a very positive way. And we're really just trying to calm everything down, supporting thyroid, and then putting in foods where we can really support detoxification and making sure that that happens. And so we went through that phase, and now we're on the phase where we are looking at promoting metabolic flexibility. Um, we are looking at blood sugar regulation, and also this is where we start healing the gut as well. So that's kind of where we're at the moment.
And I have to say also, for the people that also perhaps following this as well, like I have had some really positive results so far.
Mhm.
And obviously giving up coffee was hell on earth for me. And I had really bad headaches in the beginning. And it just made me realize like how big of an effect caffeine actually has on us.
Yeah.
And then obviously, once I'd got through that phase and I'd had some nausea and things like that in the beginning, and we'd adjusted the supplements, I really started to have a really so much clearer thoughts and the kind of the brain fog went, and I was coaching my clients better. I felt like I was just more present. I was catching my words more. So that to me, obviously, not just from giving up caffeine. I think the supplements have helped as well, but in just such a short space of time. I mean, I think I'm into my maybe 4th week or something, on the, the second phase, but also, just was very, very, very reassuring, let's say. I mean, people are saying a lot, is your bloating better? Is your bloating better? Because I think that's what I've talked about the most. And it's definitely calmer. I want to say my stomach is definitely calmer. And that's great. So obviously we still have a long way to go, but so
Yeah.
far, I've been
Yeah.
really, really happy with how things are going. So
No, you are. You're doing absolutely amazing there. I think it helps when you are someone that can easily follow instructions. Um,
I'm sure a lot of people struggle though, right? Because,
yeah.
obviously I am in the space and I do know how to cook properly and I do love healthy food. So the nutritional part for me wasn't a problem. But I mean, let's face it, for some people, they're maybe having a lot of processed foods, drinking a lot of coffee, drinking a lot of wine. It can be, I'm sure, extremely difficult for some people.
It can, yeah, absolutely. But I can honestly say by the time most people make it here, they're
They
they're
just need
pretty
to,
yeah,
yeah.
they're pretty
I mean,
unhappy. They're pretty
yeah,
desperate,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And so quite often, and it is, look, it's even for someone like myself, I'd spent years being uber disciplined, competing, in the same space. Um, and suddenly when I'd allowed myself to kind of lean into what my body was telling me, I found it difficult myself, and I'd have periods where, I would go off piste a little bit. But
mm,
I always knew that bringing myself back was the winner, and that's where I talk about this whole thing about perfection. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for consistency, and I think that's a metaphor for life as well. Whatever we are most consistent with
hmm,
is what we'll get. And so, you know, if I can get someone at 70 or 80% of the full amount, then we're going to get some really amazing results.
exactly, exactly.
Um, so
And
yeah,
people really do feel like they've got a new lease of life. I mean, certainly some of the comments that I've read on, the app and Sarah's the forum that we're on, really it's very transformational for so many people.
absolutely. It really is. I've literally got quite a few testimonials coming up from ladies that I've
Yeah.
worked with varying different problems, and you will hear firsthand from them, how transformational it is. But I know because I've been through it myself, and I will never forget Sarah and I having a conversation because we had very, very similar issues. And I remember Sarah saying to me, your life will change when things get better and you heal, your life will change. And she said to me, you'll have more capacity, more energy. And, she was telling me all these things. And I remember thinking, yeah, that happens for other people and that might happen for you, but I can't see that happening for me. But
Yeah.
honestly, it did. It gave me a clarity and a capacity that I just never remember. Like I could suddenly handle things and situations that I couldn't previously handle because I had more mental capacity. Um, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, it is life changing.
Right, right. And also, I mean, just also on a time frame, I mean, obviously I know everybody's different, but a lot of people have asked me as well is how long are you going to be doing this for? How long does it take? And I guess how long's a piece of string kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it takes as long as it takes,
Yeah.
right? And everybody's different.
Yeah, they really are. I think it depends on a few things. It depends on the severity, and what's going on. Some gut cases can take 6 weeks. Some, just the killing phase can take 16 weeks. It really does just depend on what we find. I would say someone like myself who I had quite a few different issues. It took me about 9 months from start to finish, and I wasn't perfect. I did already have a physique built, but I was very bloated. I'd gained 11 kilos. So, it just takes a bit of time. And I think the more that we can accept that the journey is the journey, the easier it becomes. But of course, we're impatient, aren't we? And we want it now, and that's not,
I'm sure, yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I'm obviously really, really excited just to keep continuing and just seeing, how this journey goes, and working with yourself as well has been great. And, I know it's still gonna take a little bit more time. But obviously, this has been a really, really interesting discussion, and I think has also helped a few people just to understand a little bit more about
Yeah.
what's involved in something like this. So, thank you so much for answering all those questions. I'm sure like we're going to have plenty more as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do a part two, or maybe just
Yeah,
in a few months'
absolutely.
time, see how things are going.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
thank you so much. And
Thank
if
you.
people want to work with you, where can they find you?
So they can head on over to Optimised Female on Instagram, and contact us there.
Right, lovely. And I'll also be sharing a link as well. So you can book your kind of discovery call, and I'll be sharing that on the socials, and we'll obviously be sharing this whole conversation as well. So yeah, really, really, really good conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe.